Well, hello, I'm Nigel Davis, CEO of Medherant. And what we do at Medherant is to take well-known, well-established drugs and deliver them in a better way. We are currently a young but clinical stage company. We actually did our first phase 1 clinical trials last year. And what we're doing is to develop patches for delivering drugs through the skin. So taking drugs that are normally delivered orally as pills or capsules and delivering them through the skin instead. So I'm actually, unlike most of the people who come, able to bring our product and show you. This is one of our patches, and we make different sizes for different indications of different drugs depending on the application. Our secret sauce, as I've had 3 investors describe it today, the secret sauce between what's different in our patch is actually the adhesive we use, and that's been licensed in from Bostik, the well-known adhesive company. We have an exclusive worldwide license for drug delivery for that type of adhesive. And our vision is to build a sustainable transdermal drug delivery company. We've got a great team. It's not just me. Sally Waterman is here in the audience as well, our COO. Ken Cunningham, well-established chairman, and Dave Haddleton, a very practical and commercially thinking professor from the University of Warwick, which is where we've spun out from. Not shown on there, we've also got on the board Mark Payton, who is CEO of Mercia Technologies, who are our main funder, and non-exec Nigel Theobald, who's actually here at the conference as well. We started in 2015, so not quite 4 years old yet. As I said, we spun out from the University of Warwick and got an exclusive license to this novel technology. Did a lot of work looking at what drugs could we put into this technology in our first year or so, and the answer was a lot of different things. We've got over 50 products that we've got some data on in the lab, so we decided to focus on the CNS, and I'll present our pipeline in a few minutes. We've selected a contract manufacturer to make GMP patches, and as I said, last year we actually ran clinical trials with our first product, which the main outcome of which was to show that there was no irritation or sensitization. You're probably aware that most sticky plasters, adhesives, band-aids, etc. cause irritation for quite a high proportion of the population. We actually saw no irritation at all in the clinical trial. Can't promise it won't ever happen, but we haven't seen it yet. Our business model, well, we're good at formulating drugs into patches, and we're good at designing and developing the clinical trials, we believe, for those. We don't intend, at least not in the foreseeable future, to build our own sales force. Our model is to develop products, and we're going to have a pipeline of products we develop ourselves through clinical trials, through bioequivalent studies. We only have to show bioequivalence to the oral drug. We don't have to do lots of expensive and long efficacy studies. But also, we're already getting traction with pharma companies and starting to work with companies from Japan and from Europe who come to us and say, can you put drug X or drugs X, Y, and Z into your technology for us? So that's our model to work on both of those strands. So why would anybody want a transdermal patch? Well, there's quite a number of reasons. Obviously, taking drugs orally is very convenient, or at least it is for most people, but there's quite a proportion of people who can't actually swallow very well or don't like it. That becomes particularly a problem in cancer, particularly with the elderly, difficulties in swallowing. Then there's many drugs that actually suffer very poor bioavailability because they get destroyed in the gut. But perhaps more importantly, a lot of drugs cause a lot of serious side effects, gut toxicity. Then again, when you take a tablet, you tend to get a high peak plasma dose of drug, and you get these highs and lows between every oral dose. The advantage of a patch is that you get steady state delivery, you avoid going through the gut at all, you avoid first pass metabolism in the liver, and you can give just steady dose of drug hour after hour, even day after day. But there's not a huge number of drugs available currently in patch form. Some drugs you will never get through the skin, but there's plenty that could go through the skin that we should work on. Our technology we're calling the TEPI patch, as I said, based on a novel adhesive from Bostik. And that has a number of advantages. Some of those are technical, some of them are more like consumer-facing advantages. Technically, we have a very good adhesive, sticks really well. It'll stick for days, in fact. But when you come to take it off, it doesn't hurt, doesn't pull all your hairs out. It doesn't leave any residue behind. Most of the other current technologies will leave you black marks around the edge, called cold flow. We don't get any of that because we actually cross-link the adhesive. It's not just a gooey, sticky layer. It is cross-linked, so a sort of semi-solid reservoir for carrying drug. And that's the other important benefit that we have. We have a high payload. We get a lot of drug in, and we can add other excipients like permeation enhancers that are already used in creams and gels, for example, to help drugs get through the skin. We can add those things without losing the adhesive properties. The chart on the right shows in red adhesion properties of some of our products. In black are some of the off-the-shelf ones you can go and buy in Boots that tend to fall off after a couple of hours. And the grey lines are just typical Band-Aid elastoplast. So very similar level of adhesion to the Band-Aid elastoplast type product, but they don't hurt when you take them off, as I say. We can tailor the amount of drug, the amount of excipients, the size of the patch, and so we can tailor the flux, the rate of delivery of drug. As a startup, we were in quite an enviable position because we actually in-licensed with a global exclusive license a novel adhesive that had been invented by Bostik, and they'd patented it very thoroughly because they're using it in industry, sticking buildings together, sticking cars together, but they don't have any expertise in the medical space, and we were able to obtain the global exclusive license for drug delivery. So we have 85 granted patents as a startup. And we've added on top of that our own patents on using that type of adhesive for delivering drugs and further ones beyond that. Including, we're actually a spin out from the University of Warwick polymer department. So although we've licensed an adhesive, we've actually invented our own adhesives, partly to protect ourselves from anybody else doing the same, and partly for further next generation future products, as they probably have slightly different properties. So our own pipeline, we're working on dronabinol for chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting, and on memantine and donepezil, which are two of the well-established Alzheimer's drugs. All those products, we're finalising the formulation first quarter this year, or first half of this year, I should say, and then we'll be moving into process development and transferring the process for manufacture to our partner, GMP manufacturer, Addex Pharma. They're all, as you can see, big markets there. Dronabinol, well, chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting is a huge problem for people with oncology treatments. Actually, it severely curtails the levels of chemotherapy that many patients can endure, and therefore reduces the efficacy of chemotherapy, the fact that the patients are being sick so much. Most of the drugs given are given orally, which is kind of odd if you're being sick. So if we can deliver that transdermally instead, that would be a great benefit. Also, dronabinol is not the preferred drug currently, and that's because of the side effects. Dronabinol is actually is THC, it's the active ingredient in cannabis, made synthetically. As I said, you can get high levels of drug when you take drug orally, temporarily, and the spike of drug can give many patients hallucinogenic side effects, which is not ideal and limits the effect. If we can give the drug steadily, hour after hour, then we'll avoid those side effects in most patients, we believe, and avoid the problems of giving the drug orally. Therefore, we should see an improvement in the chemotherapy that's being given. We've done clinician surveys on this, particularly in the US for dronabinol, and the feedback was that this would double the number of patients they would treat with dronabinol. In Alzheimer's, a big issue there is compliance. Patients just forget to take their tablets or take them at the wrong time. So again, if we can deliver the drug constantly hour after hour, they won't forget because they're wearing it. A carer can see that they've taken the drug because they're still taking it because they're wearing it. So those are our pipeline products. Very quickly, this is our timeline. As I said, we're doing development through bioequivalence route, don't have to do efficacy studies. Obviously, we have to do stability work in the CMC side of things for these chronic indications like Alzheimer's, but it's a pretty quick, rapid route to getting to market. So we're looking for a Series A funding at the moment, and the objective with that funding is to develop the process for all of those three products, take them all through bioequivalent studies, and actually to finish the clinical phase for dronabinol. And I forgot to say earlier, dronabinol actually has potential for a number of other indications beyond chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting, things like Tourette's syndrome and even sleep apnea, for which there is no drug approved at the moment. And I also said that we were working with pharma companies on taking other drugs and putting them into our technology. So basically funded programs that will end up getting royalties from sales in due course. Working with a Japanese company that knows patches inside out, but they can't do a particular hormone, and we're helping them out. And again, repurposing a drug that's currently delivered orally, but repurposing it again for Alzheimer's, but as a patch. And then looking, hopefully, to close in the next 2 or 3 months, deals, strategic collaboration deals with a couple of European pharma companies for multiple drugs. I said that we had done a phase 1 study, 2 phase 1 studies, in fact, last year, and that was actually with our ibuprofen patch, and this is actually the placebo of that. It's quite big because you're treating an area for local pain. Other patches may well need a smaller patch. The trials that we did proved that there was no irritation or sensitization caused by the patch, and that we delivered some drug. And that product is now available for partnering, and we're in discussions with a number of companies about that. Most pharma companies aren't very familiar with actually making patches. You know, they like making pills, but patch manufacture is fairly straightforward. It's effectively like a printing process. You have a reel-to-reel using the plastic backing liner, the adhesive mix with all the excipients and drug is spread on that. We cross-link it, in our case, just using steam. In fact, it's water vapor in a warm oven environment, which cross-links it, and then you put the backing layer on, die cut it and pack it. We have a pilot plant in Coventry at our site, so we can do the full process development and then transfer that on virtually the same equipment to our partner to do the GMP. So the funding requirement we're looking for is 20 million to take all 3 of those products through bioequivalent studies, as I said. After that, depending on our level of income from the funded programs with partners, we may need up to 5 million to just finish the programs for the other 2. Dronabinol should get right through the clinic, but we'll have to do some further phase 1 work on safety for the Alzheimer's because it's a chronic indication. And so that's an extra 5 million. But that will depend on our level of royalties and other income, whether we need that. I don't need to dwell on that, but I can send the presentation to anybody who's interested. You'll have seen earlier in the slide that I showed competitors. There are other people working on patches, which shows that there's interest and demand out there for patches. But Corium, who's one of the companies making patches, is an example of where we might end up in a few years' time. They've got several products in development and a couple of partners going very well, and were bought last year for $500 million. And then Neuroderm, working particularly in Parkinson's, I believe it is, also made a very healthy exit. So that's Medherant, and we're very happy to talk to you afterwards. Myself, as I said, Sally Waterman is also here, and also James Wong, who is representing Mercia, is sitting in the audience and happy to talk to any investors as well. So thank you very much, and that's our story.
Thank you.